everybody, I'm Miss Jessica from EVPL Oakland, and we are going to be doing a humorous story for our Chapter Book Storytime variety pack. Last time we were together, we did a spooky story. We had our friend Miss Ellen last week share some of her favorite stories with us, and this week we're going to be doing something that is pretty funny. And I have to say, the first thing that caught my attention about this book was the cover. And then when I started reading what it was about, I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. We have to read this book. Okay, so we are going to be reading Hyacinth and the Secrets Beneath. And this is by Jacob Sager Weinstein. And I love just the tag on this book. That was part of what caught my attention. It says, magic is real, history is a big fat lie. Okay, already right there, the language is very funny. So we're going to read what's on the back because I really like that, but then we'll also read what it's about on the inside cover. Turns out everything I believed about how the world works was wrong. Magic is real, and so are mosquitoes in tuxedos, cascades of enchanted sewage, lumpy gray monsters who kidnapped my mom and apparently work for the post office. They said I have until midnight to get her back. It's going to be a long day. Okay, let's see what the inside cover says. Before Hyacinth Hayward moves from Illinois to London, she reads up on the city's history. Too bad for her because the books are wrong. The truth is, London was built on magical rivers, and all the major events in its past have been about people trying to control the magic. Hyacinth discovers this when her mom is kidnapped. In the chase to get her back, Hyacinth encounters a giant intelligent pig in a bathing suit, a boy with amnesia, an adorable tosher, whatever that is, a sarcastic old lady, and a very sketchy unicorn. Somehow Hyacinth has to figure out who to trust so she can save her mom and, oh yeah, not cause a second Great Fire of London. All right, so right there, I enjoy that the pig is in a bathing suit. What in the world? Okay, so let's get started. And really quick, we always want reading to be an enjoyable experience. So before I get started, I do want to point out that I do have something to drink nearby, and I've got a snuggly blanket so that I can be nice and comfortable while I'm reading, just like I like to be. And here we go. Part 1, Chapter 1. In 1848, London smelled awful. I'm not sure why this surprised anybody. If I had been around then and somebody said, Hyacinth, if every toilet in town flows directly into the river Thames, will the city smell like a rose garden in a chocolate factory? I'm pretty sure I would have said, no. But apparently it was a big surprise to the Victorians. They called it the Great Stink, and at first all the members of Parliament ignored it. Then the stink reached Parliament, and when everybody finished running, gagging out of the building, they figured maybe they should do something about it. They dug up half the city and built a massive underground sewer. They spent huge amounts of money, and they ripped up the road and tore down houses, but they did it in the name of good health and breathable air. It was just a big engineering project, and it had absolutely nothing to do with a terrifying magical power that could destroy London and possibly the whole planet if it got into the wrong hands. At least, that's what the history books told me. But you know that. But you know what? History is a big fat liar. And you know who else is a liar? My mom. Okay, that's not fair. It's only lying if you're clued in enough to know you're not telling the truth. I honestly think Mom believes everything she says, even if it completely contradicts something she said 30 seconds before. Consider the following Mom monologue, which I heard as our black cab pulled away from London Heathrow Airport. Now, honey, I know you're scared about moving to a new country and maybe you're a little angry at me, but you're going to fall in love with London. I just know. It's a wonderful big city full of exciting things. It'll be totally different from what you're used to, and that will help you grow. Also, Aunt Polly's flat is in Hampstead, which is part of London, where she and I and all your aunts grew up, and it's just beautiful. And there are sheep wandering through the fields and springs welling up between the trees. It'll be like we never left Grandma's farm back in Illinois, and that will help you feel right at home. You see what I mean? I counted 4 contradictory statements in about 10 seconds. You would think that one of them, at least, would turn out to be right, but Mom has a rare knack for missing the truth on all sides. And when we finally got to Hampstead, I realized she'd done it again. It wasn't bustling and exciting. It wasn't full of sheep and springs either. It was just an ordinary neighborhood with some trees and some buses. Aunt Polly's building was on a busy 4-lane road, and I'm pretty sure any sheep that tried to wander across it would have ended up as lamb chops. So maybe things had changed since my mom was a little girl, except the buildings looked like they were at least 100 years old, which means that my mom couldn't have grown up among fields unless she was much, much older than she looked. Still, I was excited about seeing Aunt Polly. A long time before I was born, my mom and her 8 sisters had left England and moved to a little town in Illinois where my grandmother had bought a farm. I had grown up surrounded by family, and since Aunt Polly had moved back to London last year, I'd missed her terribly. Spending time with her was the only part of this whole crazy move that I expected to actually enjoy. Mom led us into the building with the key Aunt Polly had mailed her, and we lugged our bags up 2 flights of steps. Then we had to lug them up another flight. I thought Aunt Polly's flat was on the 2nd floor. I said, "Oh, here in England they call..." No, I should say here in England we call the 1st floor the ground floor. So when we say the 1st floor, that's actually the 2nd floor. And when we say the 2nd floor, that's actually the 3rd floor. Great, I thought. It isn't just Mom. The whole country is lying to me. Mom unlocked Aunt Polly's door and swung it open. "Hello, Polly, we're here," she called. There was no answer. I spotted a note on the nearby table and read it out loud. "Dear Cleo and Hyacinth, so sorry I can't be there to meet you. One of my companies in Tokyo is on the verge of collapsing and I'd had to fly over there to fix it. I'll be back in a month or 2. Until then, please make yourselves at home. Love, Aunt Polly." That was strange because when it came to being organized, Aunt Polly was kind of the anti-mom. Even when she had a million different things going on all at once, which was usually, Aunt Polly never missed a single detail. Flying off at the last minute was totally unlike her. It looked like it was just going to be me and Mom for most of the summer. Whoopee. "That's disappointing," Mom said. "I was really hoping Polly would be around to help me sort out my life. But I was worried we'd be too dependent on her, so I'm glad we have some time to ourselves. I'm sure she'll be back soon, unless she takes a long time to fix her company, which she might. So it will probably be ages. Oh, did I tell you Grandma gave me a present to give you when we arrived? I've got it here somewhere." I kind of tuned Mom out like I usually did when she started on one of her monologues. But that last bit caught my attention. Despite everything, I felt a little tingle of excitement. Grandma always gave the best presents. I waited impatiently while Mom opened up her suitcase and sorted through all the junk she had packed. Finally, she emerged victorious and handed me a gift-wrapped package. I ripped open the wrapping and found a book inside. A History of the Sewers of London. Huh? Well, I guess it kind of made sense. Grandma knew I liked history. She knew I was good at plumbing and stuff like that. She knew I was moving to London. I wasn't sure I'd put all those facts together in quite the same way she had, but she'd never given me a bad present, so I was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I opened it up and found she had written something on the front page. "My dearest Hyacinth, I write this with heavy heart, for you and your mother are heading into terrible danger. You cannot possibly anticipate. I wish I could guide you through it all, but you must face it on your own. All I can do is tell you this. Your aunts and I have done what we can to prepare you. Remember, my child, as long as you remember, I will always be with you. With eternal love, Grandma." Wait, what? If Grandma knew about real danger, why wouldn't she do something about it? And how had she and my aunts prepared me? They had taught me a million random skills, but if I was heading into terrible danger, knowing how to milk a cow or fix a harpsichord wasn't going to do me as much good. I showed the note to Mom and said, "What does that mean?" Mom shrugged. "I think she meant what she said, sweetie. She just wants you to have fun in London." Puzzled, I looked down at the page. Grandma's note now said something completely different. "Dear Hyacinth, hope you have fun in London. Love, Grandma." What? Chapter 2. The first few weeks, the only danger I encountered was the danger of Mom driving me crazy. She tried to show me around, but she kept getting lost, and when we did find a place where whatever she had to tell me was wrong. We spent 2 hours wandering around the Tower of London looking for the live lions Mom insisted that were kept there before she finally believed the guards, who kept telling her she was thinking of the London Zoo. Also, and I know it sounds like a small thing, but it drove me crazy. The faucets in Aunt Polly's flat made no sense. Back home, each sink has one faucet so that the hot and cold water mix together and come out at just the right temperature. For some reason, every sink in Aunt Polly's flat had either one faucet for hot water and another one for cold, so you either burned your skin or you froze it. You're supposed to put in the plug and then mix the hot and cold water in the sink, sweetie, Mom said when I complained. But then the gunk from the last person who washed their hands gets in the water. It's like Grandma always said, Mom said. Mom told me, when your home is in a new place, you have to learn how to wash your face. I had managed to be patient with Mom the whole time we were in London, but as silly as I knew it was, this was the last straw. I lost it. Okay, first of all, this is not my house. Second, Grandma never said anything remotely like that. Third, it doesn't even make sense. And fourth, I'm not 5 years old. Putting something in rhyme isn't going to make me believe it. It's not supposed to make you believe it, sweetie. It's supposed to help you remember it. Mom, that's not the point. Focus. Mom took my hand. I know it's hard for you, but wherever we're together, it's home. I'm glad you're holding my hand, Mom. Feel how chapped it is? That's because of the faucets. If I just could have gotten some time with somebody other than Mom, it wouldn't have been so bad. But apparently summer vacation starts later in England because all the kids my age were still in school. Mom told me I should just hang out near a school and start a conversation with kids as they left. But I'm not exactly the walk up to a stranger part and start talking type. So the only person I ended up seeing regularly was our elderly downstairs neighbor. She never introduced herself to me. She just looked at me suspiciously when I passed her in the stairwell. Once we got some of her mail by accident, and I saw from the address that her name was Lady Rosalind Hill Haverstock, which seemed impressive. It was a little less impressive when I went downstairs to slip it through her mail slot and she yanked the door open to glare at me. I could smell the alcohol on her breath. "Have you been stealing my post?" she said. My grandmother taught me to always be polite to my elders, even when they're drunk and paranoid. So I smiled sweetly and said, "Have a lovely day." She slammed the door on me. But I must have made a good impression on her because after that she was friendlier. She'd stop by and ask if there was anything we needed, and occasionally when Mom and I went out, I'd open our front door and find her there as if she was just about to knock. Or as if she was eavesdropping, but I couldn't imagine anyone dying to hear our conversations unless they were doing some kind of secret documentary on crazy things moms say. Having Lady Rosalind around made the building seem a little less lonely, but I wished it wasn't the closest I had come to making a friend since we had moved. Mostly, I sat around our flat reading and rereading A History of the Sewers of London. Maybe the letters would rearrange themselves and I'd learned something about the terrible danger I was in, but they were just in the same order every time. I started to think I had just imagined Grandma's warning. It must have been the stress of the move. I will give Mom credit for one thing. Although she never made much sense on a minute-by-minute basis, things did have a way of working out in the end. One night, she tried to make macaroni and cheese for dinner. But she accidentally flipped it over to another recipe halfway through, and she ended up making macaroni and cheese pancakes. I was not going to eat those. I sent her out to the grocery store, but then I decided I'd better go with her to make sure she'd bought something sensible. Then she managed to get us lost. Plus, it turned out instead of her wallet, she had filled her purse with pancakes. All of which should have been a disaster, except that we ended up in a huge park called Hampstead Heath, which really was full of these rolling hills and leafy trees she had promised me. And it turned out that when it's summer in London, the sun stays up forever, which meant that as late as it was, we could sit on a hill and watch the sunset eating the pancakes, excuse me, she had conveniently brought along. And you know what? Macaroni and cheese pancakes are really good. It ended up being the best night we'd had since we'd moved. I think macaroni and cheese pancakes sound delicious. After a few weeks, things settled into a pattern. I still missed home, no matter what Mom said. I was not going to fall in love with London. Mom was learning to listen to me because... oh, excuse me. But at least I was learning to tolerate it. And maybe Mom was learning to listen to me because one morning when she had gone out shopping, a plumber showed up to replace our faucet. It was a pretty simple process. He took out the old faucets, connected the hot and cold water pipes with one long pipe, and put a new faucet on it. Voila! Done. Easy. When he had gone, I stood in front of the bathroom sink, turned on the hot and cold taps, took a deep breath, and put my hands in the water. I stood there, my mouth open, unable to believe what I was feeling. It was true. That hot and cold water were both coming out of one faucet. But somehow they stayed completely separate. One side of the stream was way too hot, and the other side was way too cold. British engineering had achieved the impossible. It was chapping my hands in two different ways at the same time. If I had known what the day had in store for me, I would have stood there all morning, no matter how uncomfortable it was, but I didn't know, so I jerked my hands back. At that moment, the phone rang. It was Dad. "Hi, my love," he said. "Hi, Dad. I'm glad you called. Mom's driving me." I stopped because he had taken the kind of deep breath he only takes when he's about to make a big announcement. For just a moment, my imagination ran wild. He was going to tell me I could come live with him, and we'd both move back to Illinois, and my mom could stay in London. No, even better, he and Mom had realized they just made a huge mistake, and they were getting back together, and we were all moving home. But what he actually said was, "Jessica and I are getting married." All right, we're going to stop there. So we just finished chapter 2 and we're about to start chapter 3. So if you would like to keep going with the story, that is where you'll want to pick up. And it's very interesting when your own name shows up in a story. So that always kind of is fun to me. All right, and I do want to let you know, let me double check on this one. Let's see. This one we do have as, oh my goodness, can't go on my chart. We do have this as an ebook on Overdrive and also an audiobook on Overdrive or the Libby app. So if you are wanting to read this as an ebook or listen to this as an audiobook, you'll want to go to the Libby app and use that to kind of continue with this. Or if you'd like a print copy, you can always put one on hold, visit our locations. You can come inside to see us to pick up your materials, or you can even do a curbside service with your grown-ups and they can also pick up a copy. So we are going to be spinning our wheel to find out what we're going to be reading next time. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really kind of interested in this story. We didn't get to the good stuff yet. We just got to kind of the introduction, and I really like how she talks. She's very sarcastic, and I always love it when there's somebody who has that fun sense of humor in a story. So we're going to find out what we'll be reading next time, and I hope you'll continue reading this story. All right, see you in just a moment. All right, so we just finished our book, which was a humorous book. So we're going to be spinning our wheel to find out what we'll read next time. We have fantasy, spooky, mystery, realistic fiction, adventure, science fiction, historical fiction. And if we happen to land on humor again, I will probably respin because that's the whole point. We want to get some variety. Okay, here we go. Ooh, science fiction. All right, so next time we're together, we'll be reading a science fiction story. And don't forget, we have started something new with our friend Ellen joining us. So I will see you in 2 weeks for our science fiction story. And any of the stories that we're reading, don't forget, you can always come in and check them out. You can put them on hold. You can do a curbside service. There's lots of ways to get to our materials. And I'm Miss Jessica from EVPL Oakland, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.